Do you remember telling the government during one of your meetings with them that you thought the people at the exchange were overly compliant?
I do.
Okay, and your view was there was too much compliance, right?
Yes.
It was excessive.
Yes.
And you recall telling the government that you thought the exchange could have taken more customers.
I think that's true.
In your view, the exchange was too conservative when it came to its own marketing about its services and products, right?
Yes.
And you felt the lawyers were making the decisions about marketing, right?
I did.
And they could have been doing much more marketing, but didn't, right?
They could have done some marketing, but didn't.
Right. You felt like they did virtually none.
Yes.
During your Wednesday meetings, which I believe were the compliance meetings, there were discussions about customer onboarding, right?
Yes.
What did the committee do with respect to assessing the risk of particular customers?
There's a process called regulatory mapping. That's what we did.
Okay, and you would assign customers who you were doing a regulatory mapping for a risk score?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so in order to get onto the exchange, this regulatory mapping process was designed to allow only trusted customers onto the exchange, right?
Yes. If you're referring to the risk scoring, yes. There were certain yes.
Yeah, and again, that was another part. I think, you correct me if I'm wrong. In your view, that was a bit overly restrictive, right?
It was. It had flaws.
Okay, now in the summer and fall of 2022, do you recall that new registrations for the exchange started to decline?
I do recall that.
Okay, and in your view, this was due in part to the lack of any marketing, right?
That's fair.
And isn't it true that you actually tried to get your father-in-law signed up to be able to purchase some tokens?
Yes. Yes. We did try that.
Okay, and it's because your father-in-law had a Venezuelan ID, right?
He had an expired Venezuelan ID. That's why he was unable to purchase it.
Sure, and that's what happened, right? So you tried to have him register with the exchange using that expired ID, right?
Right.
And in fact, you encountered issues, right?
Yes.
You encountered issues because of that KYC process we talked about before, right?
That's right.
And then you actually had him call the 24/7 hotline that we talked about, right?
The customer service line.
Customer service line. Thank you. You had him call the customer service line?
Yes.
And try to work these issues out so that he could register to buy HCN, right?
I did.
And ultimately it turned out, as you said, that the ID was no longer valid, right?
That's right.
And he couldn't purchase them, right?
That's right.
You testified before you expected a grant of HCN, right?
A grant?
A grant that you were given HCN.
Oh, yes, yes.
Right. So you expected a grant of HCN. And when that didn't work, you tried to go through your father-in-law to purchase HCN.
No, that's not true. My father-in-law wanted to purchase HCN.
Oh, okay. Your father-in-law wanted to purchase HCN.
Yeah, it was $20 at that point. I wanted no part of it.
Okay, now at the point in time where you expected to have these tokens, and were upset you didn't get them, you couldn't have thought the tokens were all that bad, right?
At $20, they were.
Well, that's relative, right? You didn't want to pay $20